Hello, Vinyl Community. Hi, good afternoon. It's Rob back for another quick video. Just a quick roundup of a few records that I picked up this week, specifically yesterday. Obviously, at SJ Records. Ben came up trumps again for me, bless him. And yeah, he sent a list through of some choice bits that he'd sort of sorted out for me in the middle of the week, and I then spend the next kind of 72 hours or so streaming them and deciding whether they're albums that I want to purchase or not. So yeah, anyway, so we'll get to that in a bit. So starting off just at the top, a freebie. I actually flicking through his jazz section because I'm kind of a fairly newbie in the jazz world. I know virtually nothing about jazz at all, and probably why which is probably why I pick up an album like this. Maybe, I don't know, but this was in his jazz section, and it was very reasonably priced. And this is called Jazz Goes Baroque by the George Gruntz Quartet and Quintet. Okay, so knew nothing about George Gruntz whatsoever. Apparently, he's a Swiss jazz pianist, and he's worked with the likes of Don Cherry, Chet Baker, and Dexter Gordon. Some of those names I've heard from, obviously the jazz enthusiasts on the VC talking about. So yeah, it can't be all that bad. So, but yeah, I mean, this is, as it says, this is jazz in a Baroque style, or Baroque in a jazz style, I guess, whichever way you want to look at it. So, but yeah, I mean, these are all pieces from Baroque artists, I guess. Some of these I've never heard of. Telemann, William Byrd I've heard of, Handel, obviously, Pachelbel, Cannon, I think, is it? Corelli, Frescobaldi. Yeah, so some interesting composers there. And yeah, I quite enjoyed this. He played it in the shop because I asked him to spin it, and just in case it was going to be a complete dud and I was going to hate it. And I was, to be honest, I was expecting not to like it, but it's quite interesting. I'm sure, I don't think it's going to be something I'm going to play a lot, but nice to have in the background. And yeah, I really want to get some more sort of instrumental music, which is kind of a sort of area of my collection that I've kind of sadly neglected over the years. So yeah, glad to pick that up. Okay, the next one was an upgrade for an album I had, which was on the Fame label. So I'm always looking to try and get original copies. He had a load of 80s albums in, which he was yet to price up, and I spotted this one, and this is an original pressing of Thomas Dolby's Golden Age of Wireless, his debut album. Yeah, I really like Thomas Dolby. So highly original 80s sort of synth pop with occasional kind of jazz and rock elements in it. I suppose it's I think he just comes from completely his own angle, which is one of the reasons why I like him so much. And yeah, so this is an original on with the inner sleeve with the pictures on there and the lyrics. So I was very happy to do that, and he said he'd do a straight swap for the Fame copy. So yeah, no complaints there. Okay, the next two I was delighted to get. I've hitherto not owned anything by this guy on vinyl at all, primarily because they're really difficult to come across, and don't show up very often. And then, like they say in the UK, you're waiting for a bus, and then all of a sudden, several arrive at once. I haven't got several; I've got two. And this is the wonderful John Martin. yeah, I got his debut album, London Conversation, which is apparently the rarest of the lot to pick up an original copy of that on vinyl. But that's a wonderful album from '67. This is his follow-up from '68, The Tumbler, and this is a reissue on this Island 70s kind of Island label. And yeah, this is wonderful. This is before he got into his kind of jazzy stuff, when he was getting really experimental. So quite sort of folky and stripped back. But you've got some wonderful flute playing by this guy Harold McNair, and there's a second guitar by Paul Wheeler, and a guy called Dave Moses on the bass. Yeah, and it's kind of quirky and whimsical in places, which I really enjoy. And yeah, nothing too heavy on here. Sing a Song of Summer, the first track, I love. And Fishing Blues has got his kind of hypnotic kind of unique picking style that he developed. And yeah, obviously was quite a hypnotic, similar in some ways to Nick Drake, which kind of isn't surprising, I guess, because they were good friends and lived in London together for a while, and yeah, really kind of bounced off one and influenced one another. I love this track Dusty as well on side 2, first song. It's a lovely song. And Knuckle D Crunch and Slippity Slee Song. What a great title. Yeah, I really like that one as well. So yeah, lovely stuff. Really pleased to get that. Okay, and then the next one, very different album entirely. This is Inside Out, and this is his 1973 release that came out the same year as Solid Air. This is the one that came after it. So that's the gatefold. Lovely original copy on this pink island in really nice condition, and the jacket itself as well. It's just, looks almost new. So I was delighted to get that. I love that cover as well. But yeah, this is for those not familiar with this. This is far more experimental John Martyn, and he was kind of putting a lot of jazz elements into his music, and started to play around with a lot more sort of different rhythms, techniques, and he was, of course, had a strong association with Danny Thompson at this stage of his career as well. He'd already recorded, I think, 3 albums with him, and when you watch the documentary on John Martyn, I think they had quite a tempestuous kind of relationship, to say the least, but produced some stunning musical statements, and fantastic. Yeah, so I'm not really that familiar with this. I have played this before, but I need to reacquaint myself with it, really. But yeah, when John Martyn albums, particularly from that era, turn up, you don't turn them down. So yeah. Next one was a addition to my Cat Stevens collection. This is an 80s reissue of his second album, New Masters. And this is that kind of silver Durham label. Yeah, I kind of cocked up with this because I didn't actually realise that I already had every single song on this album apart from one, which was a track on the first side called Smash Your Heart. Every other song basically appears on these 2 compilations, both Decca, because he changed labels, I think, when Mona Bona Joking came out. So these are basically compilations and single releases from basically the first two albums. Yeah. And what the hell, you know. So, but it's nice to have and go in the collection. So I need Matthew and Son now, which is the only one of his early period now that I'm missing. So yeah, good stuff. Okay, now this last one is a bit special. I'd never ever heard of this guy, and when Ben sent me the list and the email that he usually sends me midweek of records that he's had in from various collections, specific collections, and he sort of creams off some of the better titles, or the titles that he thinks that I would be into, because I've been shopping there for 3 years, and he's got to know my tastes, and but I'd never heard of this guy. This is Robin Lent, and this is his 1971 debut album, Scarecrow's Journey. Now I went on Wikipedia, and there's no, from what I could find, there was no Wikipedia entry for this guy, and there's very little information about him. Ben couldn't tell me an awful lot about him either. I found a little bio. I can't remember what site it was on now, somewhere, about him. He's apparently Cuban, so he was born in Cuba, and by all accounts, his parents travelled around quite a lot, because I think he travelled to the US and then sort of spent time in Europe. Ended up in France, but for quite a while he settled in Holland, and yeah, he actually auditioned and got a part in the Dutch production of Hair, the musical rock musical Hair, and the pit band was that was playing was the progressive band Focus, who are obviously fabulous musicians. And at some stage, obviously, these guys got together, and he produced this album. And Focus were the musicians that basically backed him on this, and it's just wonderful. It's kind of he sings like David Crosby, or it reminded me of David Crosby. He's got very, very rich, wonderful kind of vocals, and wonderful guitar playing, superb sort of picking style, and you can tell he plays with capos as well. Sometimes it's quite high up the neck, because I play that in that style sometimes myself. But yeah, he's very, very accomplished musician, and writes fantastic songs and lyrics. A couple of the songs are quite upbeat, sort of jazzy feel with a sort of slight acid edge, and he's got some different tunings going on with his guitar as well, I could tell. But wonderfully produced, lovely kind of Baroque arrangements on some of them, with orchestrations, sort of reminiscent of Nick Drake maybe. Really, really superb album, and it was released on this Nepalfan label. Obviously, I've never seen, and this is quite a rare album. I don't think it's ever been reissued on vinyl, so it was quite expensive. but I paid a lot less. I'm not going to tell you how much I paid for it, but it was a lot less than what it books for. And yeah, I've seen there's copies on eBay and so on that going for upwards of a sort of £150. So it was expensive, but it's one of those albums that you hear, and yeah, it immediately got under my skin, and I've been streaming it for days before I picked it up yesterday, and I just thought, I'm sick of procrastinating over records. It's like you see something and hear something that's fantastic, and if you can afford it, it's just worth, because you just never see these records again, or may not for a very, very long time. So yeah, delighted to get that. So that's it, guys. I'm all done and dusted. So yeah, I hope you've all had a good week and enjoying the rest of the weekend. The sun's still shining here. I've been out for a couple of walks because you can't always play records when the sun's shining and it's 20 degrees outside, because especially in the UK, the weather can just change just like that. So anyway, but have a good week, guys, and obviously stay safe. Continue to look after yourselves, and we'll speak again soon. Cheers, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.